Gene Simmons shocks fans with his latest news. Get comfortable, because today we're diving deep into the epic, dramatic, and sometimes outright unbelievable story of one of rock's most iconic, controversial, and unfiltered legends, Gene Simmons of Kiss. If you think you know the full story, wait until you hear what's coming. There are twists, scandals, and wild pivots at every turn. His journey is packed with hardship, family survival, outrageous fame, shocking decisions, and a business legacy that changed music forever. Stick around, because what's coming next is even more surprising. And before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth rock history and music deep dives. Turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the hidden chapters ahead. Origins shaped by survival. Gene Simmons wasn't always the fire-breathing stage demon we saw on tour. In fact, he was born as Chaim Witz on August 25, 1949, in Haifa, Israel. His family's story was already marked by extraordinary resilience. His mother, Flora Kleine, a Hungarian Holocaust survivor who escaped concentration camps, and his father, Yohiel Witz, fled war-torn Hungary to start over in Israel just before the state was founded. Imagine living above the scars and shadows of that history. Have you ever felt like the struggles of your family's past changed who you became? Jean's early childhood was shaped by poverty and heartbreak. His parents' marriage fell apart by the time he was just 6. His mother, working grueling hours in factories, raised him alone in Mount Carmel, often scraping by with only bread and milk for dinner. Even as a child, Gene hustled, picking wild fruit to sell by the roadside, making his own coat from an army blanket. His experiences left him fiercely independent and determined never to feel helpless again. What would you have done in his shoes, growing up with so little? Let us know how adversity shaped your dreams in the comments. Escape to America. Dreams and alienation. Things changed in 1957 when Flora, with only a suitcase and her young son, left Israel for New York City. Imagine arriving in Queens with no money, no English, and no family support. Gene, now Eugene Clean, was constantly trying to fit in. He was bullied at school for his accent and background, but guess what? Those early wounds only made him tougher. Comics became his refuge, and even before reading English fluently, he obsessed over Spider-Man and Superman, absorbing their sense of invincibility. He learned English, Hebrew, Hungarian, and Turkish by age 7, and soon started speaking like the Americans on TV, even adopting a British accent to impress girls at school. Flush toilets, TV dinners. America was a strange new world, and Gene soaked it all up, determined to go from outsider to star. Ever felt stuck between worlds and tried to reinvent yourself? Drop your story below. Stay tuned, because his real transformation had only begun. Reinvention and the spark of music. By the late 50s, Gene changed his name again, this time to Gene Clean, inspired by American film cowboys. But his awkwardness lingered, and despite a growing confidence, finances never improved. He juggled odd jobs through his teens, scraping by in butcher shops and delis, all while dreaming bigger. Unlike so many rockers, Gene steered clear of alcohol. He'd watched too many others spiral and knew he needed a clear mind to survive. His obsession with music grew after witnessing the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. That seismic moment drove him to guitar, then band formation. First little school groups, then a more serious commitment. He attended Sullivan County Community College, studied education, and even taught 6th grade in Spanish Harlem, but music always pulled him back. Have you ever dropped a safe path to chase something risky you loved? Tell us about your own big leap in the comments. The birth of Kiss, makeup, fire, and mayhem. This is where it gets wild. Gene's shadowy past gave way to full-blown spectacle. After a failed folk rock group called Wicked Lester, whose unreleased album still haunted him, Gene, Paul Stanley, Peter Criss, and Ace Frehley formed Kiss in 1973. They wanted more than music. They built outrageous personas, constructing a fiery, fantasy-driven visual explosion inspired by comic books, Alice Cooper, and glam rock's greatest excesses. At first, Kiss struggled to fill even tiny clubs in Queens, but Gene's demon persona, complete with batwing makeup, fire-breathing, and blood-spitting, could not be ignored. By creating something unforgettable, their legend spread fast, even without radio support. One wonders, if you had just a handful of people in your first crowd, would you give up or double down? Stay tuned, because Kiss's early risk turns out to be pure rock and roll gold. Relentless drive and stratospheric success. Within 18 months, Kiss was headlining stadiums. They signed with Casablanca Records and released their self-titled debut in 1974, hustling day and night to promote it. 300 shows in 1 year, non-stop. Gene's gamble to go all in on showmanship paid off. It wasn't about the hit song, it was about creating a world no one could forget. The Demon became a household name. Their breakthrough came with the live album, Alive, released in September 1975. The wild, chaotic energy leapt off the record. Quadruple platinum sales, over 4 million copies, and a place at number 9 on the Billboard charts for 110 weeks. The risk had become a revolution, and Kiss's live shows became legendary for their pyrotechnics and stagecraft. But wait, as the band rocketed to fame, the cracks started to show behind the glitter. Curious what really tore them apart? The next section will surprise you: fame, egos, and the heavy cost of chaos. The late 1970s were years of both innovation and implosion. Kiss pushed the spectacle further with albums like Destroyer and ever larger tours, but the strain was enormous. Gene's backstage life was a whirlwind. He documented his sex life with nearly 5,000 Polaroids, claiming thousands of lovers, a reputation that burned just as brightly as his stage persona. Drug problems sidelined drummer Peter Criss, and disco's arrival drove a wedge between core rock fans and the band's new direction. Some shows saw empty seats, and internal fights became rampant. Gene's confidence, some would say arrogance, never faltered. He kept pushing the Kiss image into everything from lunchboxes to TV movies. What do you think? Does commercial success justify anything, or can it go too far? Hang tight. What happened next would change both the band and Gene's life forever, taking off the mask, literally. In September 1983, Kiss did the unthinkable. They ditched their trademark makeup live on MTV, revealing their faces after a decade of mystery. It was bold, risky, and yet another reinvention. The band's album, Lick It Up, went platinum. Fans returned, drawn by the new raw energy and the mythos of seeing the real Gene Simmons. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. Old bandmates were bought out as newer, more businesslike models emerged. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Gene pushed into movies, television, and a merchandising empire. 5,000 branded Kiss products, a staggering billion-dollar business. Would you have kept the mask on or taken the leap? Let us know in the comments. Scandals, lawsuits, and family drama. Gene's personal life was never short of controversy. Famous for avoiding drugs, he was infamous for his sexual exploits. Stories he would later admit became almost a compulsion. Tabloid scandals erupted, including a notorious love triangle with Cher and Diana Ross, and explicit photos that his later wife Shannon Tweed would dramatically burn on their reality show, Gene Simmons' Family Jewels. Legal troubles followed, allegations of inappropriate behavior, lawsuits from employees, and noisy disputes with former bandmates. Behind the tabloid noise, his family life often seemed chaotic. His son Nick was caught in a comic book plagiarism scandal, and his outspoken comments on TV continued to spark outrage, even as late as 2024. What's your take? Is it possible for anyone in the spotlight this long to avoid controversy? And do you think his wild honesty is refreshing or reckless? Share your hottest takes below. What's coming next is even more revealing. Business brilliance and reinvention. Despite the chaos, Gene never stopped hustling. By 2015, his net worth was estimated at more than $400 million, thanks not just to Kiss's 100 million albums sold, but to a relentless empire of merchandise, from pinball machines to coffins. He launched restaurants, released an exclusive compilation called The Vault, and even jumped into cannabis startups. But wait until you hear this. Gene once tried to officially trademark the devil horn's hand gesture in 2017, claiming to have invented it. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Within days, he dropped the attempt. Still, no matter how controversial the play, he always found a way to dominate the headlines. Reunion, reality TV, and legacy. In 1996, Kiss reunited in their original makeup for a blockbuster reunion tour. 75 cities, 92 shows, a staggering 1.2 million tickets sold, and $143 million banked. Behind those huge numbers, though, old wounds reopened, resulting in lawsuits and behind-the-scenes strife. From 2006 to 2012, Gene Simmons' family jewels brought fans into his private life, showing a softer side with longtime partner Shannon Tweed and their kids, Nick and Sophie. The show ran for 7 seasons, redefining his image but not erasing the past. Major drama, including their wedding after 28 years and live therapy sessions, reminded fans that even legends struggle with real family pain. How do you think rock stars should draw the line between their image and their true selves? Do reality shows help or hurt legendary reputations? Join the debate. Heartbreak, change, and public scrutiny. Personal loss struck when Gene's mother, Flora, died in 2018 at the age of 93. He called her his moral compass, openly grieving online. His relationship with Shannon went through public ups and downs, live on camera, showcasing the scars both from childhood trauma and decades of celebrity lifestyle. Family drama continued with his children's own controversies and his own unfiltered remarks, which made headlines again in 2024 and 2025. No matter the headlines, Gene Simmons kept pushing forward. His Ultimate Experience fan packages, solo tours, and public appearances remained lightning rods for both admiration and criticism. In 2025, Kiss received the Kennedy Center Honors, a controversial twist given Gene's public stances on politics and moments of online outrage. Stay with us, because legacy is about much more than headlines. The lasting impact of a demon. After nearly 60 years in music, Gene Simmons stands as a complicated, fascinating, and utterly original force in rock and business. He never played it safe, never stopped taking chances, even when the industry, the culture, and his own family sometimes seemed against him. At his core, Gene is the survivor, hustler, and showman who took a lifetime of adversity and spun it into legend. What part of his story shocked you most? Have you been surprised by how much behind-the-scenes struggle hides beneath a superstar mask? More importantly, how would you judge his incredible, unpredictable legacy? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the music, spotlighting the people behind the personas, the struggles behind the spotlight. Thank you for being part of our community. What kind of videos would you like us to make next? Let us know in the comments. See you on the next video.